Okay, live again, and I actually invited him before. Adam Young, I invited him before. I even brought you guys on, which I don't think anybody's on yet, but okay, there we go. That's looking better. Approved. Baby, baby. Are you there, Adam? There you are.
Did we figure it out finally?
Yes, brother. Okay, perfect.
Sorry about that.
Excellent. No worries. Adam Young, everybody. Here's Robert Young's son, who knows, I'm going to assume, would know the business inside out. And he's been kind enough to speak with us tonight to help, again, bring my education level up in this subject because I've been promoting it for 2 decades from Dr. Bernardo. He was my mentor, but I mean, everybody knows I'm just a filmmaker. I'm not a doctor or anything, but people came to me after my film on how to cure cancer, and I just told them to go to Dr. Bernardo, and then he passed in 2008. So they would keep coming to me, so I would just give them this protocol that he had that used to be on my desktop, and now here it is. It's in a book. And it was funny when I was just finishing this, dude. I saw that what they did to your dad and threw him in jail and everything. I was like, man, that's what they did to my guy, Dr. Bernardo. They tried to get him away for 20 years, but he was able to beat it. They got the right. He had a lot of prayers. A lot of people prayed for you when you're a real decent human being. Same thing happened with your father. He beat it and got out. So it's a long story for anybody that doesn't know, but that's not what this show is going to be about. It's more about what is good is what we care about. And so, Adam, like, introduce yourself. Tell us what you do, and what it's like. I'm going to say to be Batman's son, because I feel like Robert Young is a superhero like Batman, and what's it like to be the son of Batman?
Well, I probably take it for granted, and to be honest, he's concealed his identity rather well. In fact, before you came along, I didn't know he was Batman.
Yeah, okay, we'll keep it
Yeah,
that.
right. And I suppose that makes me Batboy, not to be confused with the kids that take the bats to the baseball players.
Right.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's all right. I was going to be Robin, but he said I could be Captain America, so I'm going to stick with that one.
Sorry, you're breaking up a little bit. I didn't hear you.
I said I was going to be Robin, but he said I could be Captain
Oh,
America.
you're
I just
Robin.
Yeah, Batman or Robin, but I got the Captain America shirt instead, so that works. Even though I'm
Yeah,
Canadian.
that's probably a better role for you. And yeah, what's maybe you can get into MCU. I mean, you're an actor, right?
Yeah, I was a kind of. I still could be, I suppose.
Yeah.
More into the filmmaking. Now, the reason why I got into acting was more or less because I was a kickboxing champion and I had a bit of notoriety going, and that made the notoriety bigger. And I was basically a role model for kids growing up as an athlete. Stay away from drugs and this and that, and be a good person. So I thought acting would elevate that, which it did for a while. But once you get to a certain point in Hollywood, you pretty much got to sell your soul, or you don't get further. At least that's what happened to me. I was given the deal, and I said, no, I'm not even curious of that kind of stuff. So I had to let that career go. But this career
Yeah.
as a film,
Well, I worked in the music business for a little while, so I kind of know how, working in entertainment can be a little bit.
yeah, it's. I mean, it is what it is. Um, what I like most about the acting though was again the notoriety you would get, and you get good messages across to the kids. That's what I liked about it. And then I found out I could get better messages across to parents because I became a parent or that age, and that was through making film. So I made a couple of rockumentaries just to learn how to shoot and edit. So I never went to school for it. But and then I made icurecancer.com, which I don't know if you've seen it yet, but I got it on YouTube. It's on Amazon. Won some awards. It basically tells you that there's something else other than chemotherapy, radiation, and surgery. Because I didn't know that when I was, Did you know? No, you grew up in a holistic family, so you just is that correct? You'd have always known.
Well, I'm the oldest of, of my parents' children, so uh I have the interesting perspective of growing up when my parents were still trying to figure things out. I have pretty vivid memories growing up when I was a kid. I can't remember the exact age, but I remember, being in grade school and my sister and I, we would go upstairs to get breakfast, right? And all of a sudden there's no more peanut butter Captain Crunch anymore, and there's no more milk, and like things were changing, and my sister and I were like, "Come on, mom and dad, where's the good food? Where's the bread?" And so I guess I had the challenge and the privilege of kind of seeing how things changed, with my parents' perspectives, and then as their children, I got to make my own choices to kind of go along with it. But specifically, you're asking about, well, did I know that there were alternatives? I think progressively I've learned going through the many years that I have with my family and kind of the path that we've been on, been afforded the opportunity to learn about several of the alternatives. But looking out at the world as whole, it's I think most people share your perspective, or at least before, where they're unaware that there are alternatives. Um, on, and that's unfortunate, because then if you only know about one path, you're going to take that path. Now, if you know about another path, well, then you can make a choice. So it empowers choice to know about the alternatives, which is a good
Yeah,
thing.
and I think it's only right. I think it's only right, and I take my hat off to guys like your father who stand up and do what's right, even though it gets you in trouble sometimes. For you're not allowed to cure people of cancer, folks. You're not allowed to be a decent human being, apparently.
Well, yeah, there's definitely, without getting too specific, I guess we can get specific if you'd like to, but there's definitely people with power and resources that would like for pretty much every person on this planet to think that there is only one path, right? And so they use those resources and that power, money, etc., to create the illusion that we don't have a choice. That, for example, if you get cancer, well, here's your path, and this is the only path there is, right? It's chemo and everything else that you already described.
Yeah, it's really unfortunate, but things are changing, and thanks to things like Facebook Live, this is grassroots. I'm getting through to some friends I've had, from all over the world in different parts tonight, and we're hopefully going to get through to them. That there's other things to do, especially prostate cancer. Guys my age, you don't want to get no prostate cancer removed. it's it's then no more, fooling around later, from what I hear. And you can, it's one of the simplest ones to cure. Oh my, your dad's invented his own prostate supplement. That's amazing. I got to get that myself because I keep mine in line. I'm pretty sure I had prostate cancer at one time, but I was testing my pH all the time because I'm a cancer coach, and I saw it go down, and I knew it wasn't, I got some tests on it, wasn't any kind of infection. So I thought, just in case it is, I'm going full blown as if I was 4 stage. And I went vegan, did the prostate supplement thing, and next thing you know, everything was great, back to normal. So I tell everybody out there, try holistic first. Try holistic first. Now, the one I did was a pH balancing protocol, which is what your dad's the master of. And so, can you talk to us a little bit about this phenomenon, the pH miracle, what it is and why it works?
Well, yeah, I think that, simply put, for those listeners or people that are listening that just want to have a simple understanding of it, it's essentially just understanding that the body needs to be balanced, and that everything we do, whether it be thinking or eating or breathing, has an effect on that balance. So Essentially, what you want to do is understand how those things affect your balance, figure out which, which ways of thinking, breathing, and eating will influence it the right way, and going down that road, right? So if it's diet, for example, you want to understand, well, which foods and drinks will influence my pH in the appropriate way to keep my body balanced and eliminate things that are going to negatively influence that pH. And then thinking and breathing, are a couple other examples. Um, it works because, oh gosh, it works because that's the way the body works, right? The body is constantly trying to balance itself. Um, and once you understand how to balance your body, well, your body will do the rest. It'll stay in balance, and you'll have what we're all trying to achieve, which is, good optimum health.
Right. Yeah. It's what I learned from your dad recently, because it was explained to me like this before by Dr. Bernardo, and he just put it in layman's terms for me. But he said your intercellular fluids have, when you're born, their pH is 7.4. As you get older, it goes down and you get very acidic, and it could be 5, 5.5. That's when you know you got cancer.
Yeah.
So, and then I learned to your dad that he took it a step further, and it's interstitial. Is it interstitial fluids that he called
Yeah,
it?
yeah,
And
yeah.
that's
Yeah,
right.
the interstitial or the interstitium, which uh
Right.
allegedly is this new organ that's been recently discovered, but it's kind of fascinating. Bodies and humans have been around for how long, and we've been trying to figure them out ever since, Da Vinci and Grey's Anatomy and all that. We've been trying to figure out the body, and they just recently, find this interstitium. But yeah, my dad probably talked to you about the interstitium being the place um, where oh gosh, how do I explain it? He could explain it way better than I could. But it's kind of the place in between your blood and your muscles. It's in between, and it's where, if, for example, the blood is too acidic, well, those acidic toxins will be pushed out into that area. And that's why it's so important to get that balanced, get those toxins out. Um, and that's also why when people look at blood, they may not be able to detect if a person's imbalanced or not, because there aren't, if I'm not mistaken, there really aren't any mainstream practitioners, doctors and whatnot, medical practitioners and that are testing the interstitial fluids.
Yeah, nobody knows about it really. And I think the blood thing you're talking about, the blood can't change if I understand your dad right, because if it does, you die. Like if it
Oh,
moves
right.
hardly at all.
Well, yeah,
I
that's
mean,
that's staying in balance. The body will do things in order to preserve what needs to be in balance, but it comes at the expense of other areas. Like, sure, the blood will stay in balance, but all these toxins are going into the interstitium in order to maintain the balance of the blood, right? But because no
right,
one's testing the interstitium, uh, you could test your blood and and think that everything's
right.
a-okay.
Exactly. Yeah, I think, and you're saying that. Then what'll happen is, and the reason why, and Bernard always said bone cancer just goes with it because it spreads. It's going to take calcium out of your bones to balance your blood.
Yeah, that's
So,
another good
I mean,
example. That's another
right?
good example. Yeah. I Years ago I remember when we were learning about all of this, I think it was Denmark. I want to say Denmark. They had the highest per capita. They had the highest rates of osteoporosis, right?
Well,
And interestingly enough, per capita, they also were near or at the top of the list for dairy consumption, you know,
yeah,
and which is totally counterintuitive because, the world we live in is about, oh, milk does a body good and milk's full of calcium, right? Which is supposedly supposed to build strong bones. So you'd think, well, wait a second, why would that have any influence? And so their explanation, well, it doesn't, it's something else. But when you learn a little more about pH and how the body is trying to balance itself, you learn a little more about how dairy metabolizes in your system. For example, the high lactic acid, when it metabolizes in your body, it leaves you balanced more towards the acidic end. And then what's a very common thing to do? Well, just like you said, if it's going to be more acidic, well, then you need to take something alkaline like calcium. And one of the best places in the body for that is to draw it from the bone, and then all of a sudden, uh, your your bones are depleted of the calcium that you thought you were strengthening by doing the dairy consumption, which is, you know, really novel to a lot of people that believe that dairy is so good for the body.
Like you said in the beginning, you're a little kid, you thought your chocolate cereal with milk. I remember that was heaven, man. I got mad when I found out I couldn't drink milk anymore. I'm like, you brainwashed me to drink that. And it took me forever to get used to the almond
Oh
milk,
yeah,
which
my
I'm really,
my parents were bringing home, almond milk and soy milk, and to this day, I think I'll be honest, I still miss my peanut butter Captain Crunch. But 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 I've learned over the years that, like, I worked in the music business for a while, and somebody in the music business told me once, he said, for the most part, people don't listen to the music they like the music they listen to. And I thought about it, and what he was trying to say was, if you listen to something enough, well, you start to develop a liking for it. And what was cool about that is I realized that it's the same thing with the foods and the drinks that we eat. Well, you don't eat, you know what I mean, that we consume.
yeah,
It's the same. Um,
yeah.
and tying that in together with, like, what I mentioned at the beginning, I had this interesting perspective and opportunity to kind of transition with my parents. Um, I started noticing that the more I made the decision to devote myself to try things, like take anything, like some people don't like celery, for example. I didn't really when I was a kid, but the more I ate it, I started to develop a liking for it. And after years of practicing, this philosophy, going from music to eating, people, what it's a very valuable lesson to learn, because it gives people hope that they can learn to like healthy foods. But it would be that people, they don't necessarily eat and drink what they like. They like what they eat and drink, meaning that you can actually learn to like to eat spinach, or you can like to drink um, wheatgrass juice, or something that's really good for the body. And that's been my life experience. I've gone from things like, I remember the first time I had like a green drink, like a real green drink. It didn't have anything sweet, nothing in it. It was probably spinach and celery and kale and whatever. And
Yeah.
I remember, I remember that my face muscles involuntarily contracted. It was that bad. It was just like, my body was saying no way. But
Yeah.
I made the decision, right, that I knew this was good for me. And what happened is, the more I tried it, I transitioned from that weird face muscle contraction thing to actually being able to tolerate it. And then as I continued, it went from, tolerating it to actually, hey, this is pretty good. And ultimately, when I was really devoted, it got to craving it. Like, I remember there would be times when I'd start drinking it, I'd just be like, whoa. When you're really thirsty and you need some water and you just can't stop sucking it down? Yeah, I got to that point with, like, green drinks and chlorophyll and stuff. And um so my experience has been that you can learn to like, I mean, I'm sure there's exceptions, but for the most part, you
No,
can you can learn to like the healthy things.
very well put. I love that music story, dude. That's perfect. It's perfect. Yeah. And I did the same thing when I first, because I used to think, what are they putting in those protein shakes? You know, those,
Yeah.
those we spent 80s and 90s. But I mean, my day, and we are lifting weights, and what's in them? Shit. And then I just always felt like we should be eating this stuff out of the ground. It's already made. What are they doing? What are they making? And I found out it wasn't great. And this time, like I'm really strong this time, and I'm almost vegan this time. I'm mainly vegetarian, vegan throughout the week, and I'll cheat once a week and have whatever. But and I'm stronger than ever. So we've been sold on a fallacy that it was about eating meat and red meat and stuff like that. Like your father says, the chlorophyll, basically the oil, the salt, and the water, right?
Yeah. Did he share with you? Did you guys get any specific conversation about his theoretical understanding of building muscle, contrasting with the conventional understanding?
I'm not sure. Let's go with
Well,
that. I can't remember.
yeah, it's different. It's, it's different than the conventional understanding. I mean, one of the main conventional understandings of building muscle is that you work that muscle, say it's a bicep, to the point where you have, I think they call well, you damage just a little bit and then it builds back stronger and stronger the more you do it, right? That's one of them, one of the main
Yeah.
ones at least. Alternatively, uh, his his theory of building muscle is that instead of like aminos and protein, like you were probably thinking you were getting from your protein shakes, you were doing that because you're like, I want to build muscle. And what builds muscle? What's the building blocks? Aminos and protein. His theory changes the building block from being protein or aminos to that of the erythrocyte, which is it's a fancy way of saying a red blood cell. So essentially what happens is you work that muscle, and it's quite obvious anytime you exercise, the muscle actually gets bigger because there's more blood flowing into that area. And according to his theory, what happens is then those erythrocytes are essentially sort of like stem cells, and then they're smart enough to realize, okay, this area of the body needs more blood, which means it needs more muscle. Those erythrocytes then convert into the new muscle cells. Totally different and foreign. Um, it would be foreign to most people's understanding of how to build muscle, but there's not just you, but there's other uh, vegetarians and vegans that have put this theory to practice and gotten great results. The next step, in my estimation, what needs to happen is there needs to be like a legit study done with, and maybe there has been. I haven't done the research to see this, but I would guess that there hasn't been enough research on it. But to get some vegans that are going with this theory of, okay, it's the blood that's turning into the muscle, test it and see what the results are in a peer-reviewed study, that's what I would like to see. Put
Yeah.
the
No
put the
kidding.
theory to the test, right?
Yeah. Yeah. But it always made sense. And when I started researching uh, about my next film and stuff, this is an odd subject. I won't stay too long on it, but my next film is called Space Cadet, and it's about extraterrestrials and different things like that. And I shouldn't be talking about this at all. I can tell my friends like, shh, don't bring
Uh-oh.
up the UFO.
No spoilers. Spoiler
But
alert.
yeah, but it's going to be a great film, and basically one of the first films I ever watched was supposedly one of them speaking to us and saying stuff like, um, "You're made up of how whatever chemicals we are, and this is
Yeah.
what you need to replenish. It's not McDonald's. It's not ice cream. It's not liquor. It's your what your dad said: salt, water, oil, and
Chlorophyll.
what is it? The chlorophyll.
Chlorophyll.
And that
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
well, if that was like a higher existence, if that's what I'm trying to get at, like a higher existence is basically saying what your father's saying is you're made
Yeah.
up of chemicals stuff and electricity and what you not so put good fuel, put good fuel in your UFO or Ferrari if you're still on Earth.
That reminds me of a conversation I had with some friends once. I don't know, you get with your friends, and if you're bored, sometimes you get into these strange conversations. But one of my friends asked me if, or what was the question? Of the five senses, now granted, there's some people that believe that there's more than five, but for the most part, there's the five senses, right?
Right.
He said, if you had to give up one of those, what would it be and why? Right? What would it be? Would you want to lose your sight, your smell, your taste, your hearing, or your touch? And I was like, okay, that's an interesting question. We got all philosophical about it, and there was a little group of us, and everyone was giving their answers. But um, after a few minutes of thought, it dawned on me that the answer for me might be different for somebody else, but the answer was pretty obvious. And I would want to get rid of my taste. And the reason why is because then I mean, there would be no drive really to go eat the French fries or the ice cream, right? I
Yeah.
could just, I could just put, you know, my principal motivation for eating or drinking, whatever it would just be like, is this good for my body or not? Which
Yeah.
unfortunately, which unfortunately is, I think, not in a majority of people the primary motivational factor that determines the choice they make when they decide what am I gonna have for lunch or what am right? But if I didn't have my taste buds, it'd be like, well, is that good for me or not? And
Exactly.
that's what I try to tell people. I try to say, well, hey, next time you are trying to decide what you want to eat or drink, instead of just allowing your taste buds or whatever else that's driving you to decide to drink the Coke or eat the burger or whatever else it is, ask yourself, is that actually good for your body? You know, without taste buds, it'd be easier.
A lot easier. Yeah, man. That's it. That ice cream, boy.
Yeah, I know, right? I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
But I think cheating, or I'm trying to change my vocabulary to treating myself instead of cheating day. Treating day where you get whatever you want. You get the steak, the lobster, the ice cream, the chocolate, and then 6 days of the week you're pretty much perfect. So
Yeah, I think
that's what I.
one factor that in my opinion, and we should ask my dad about this, how he feels about it. I think he would feel he would be inclined to agree. Um, there's a lot of people out there that are trying to eat right and take care of their bodies in that way. And when it comes to, as you say, treating or cheating, I think there's one factor that really makes a difference on how much you can get away with treating yourself, right? And that is appropriate exercise. Um, right? I mean, that's in my opinion, there's two halves that come together when it comes to taking care of your body. Well, you gotta eat the right things, you gotta drink the right things, and you also gotta exercise. And I think the more you're able to figure out a good way to exercise, which my dad probably shared with you his four principal ways of eliminating bad things from the body.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Um, well, two of those are, and I would argue actually all four of them are heavily influenced by exercise, you know, and then
Right.
bringing it all
Right.
together, the more you're able to get rid of those toxins through the four things of respiration, perspiration, urination, and defecation, right? You're able to then get away with treating yourself. Now, granted, there should always be a limit. um I just would try to encourage people, it's not, you got to eat right, you got to drink right, but you also need to take care of your body and exercise.
Yeah, I think it's because I'm so physically active that I can go and have a debaucherous night of good. And then the next day, I'm doing a wicked workout, kickboxing or Tabata, whatever, something. For my age, I'm pretty intense still. And then I hit the saunas, the whirlpools, and jacuzzi, all that. So I think you're right. That has a lot to it. And I don't, far as I'm concerned, I don't have cancer anymore. It's been years before since I even thought I may have. So I'm cancer free, and I cheat once a week. If you have cancer, I wouldn't cheat at all until you've been. Bernardo would
Yeah,
say
you're right.
he wants your pH to be 7.4 for at least 3 months before you can consider yourself cancer free. But if you keep your pH there, that's basically it, right?
Yep. Yeah, and the best way um to not have cancer is to prevent it or avoid it, right? So,
Yeah.
exercise and eating right